Hello everyone, welcome to this 5th video of Gelli Plate for Dummies. In the previous videos we talked about the paint to use, the paper to use, the amount of paint to put on, making homemade masks, building up some layers, and today we're going to talk about using stencils on the Gelli Plate. And there are a lot of ways to use stencils on the Gelli Plate. I suppose you all have used stencils before, but maybe there are some ways of using stencils on Gelli Plate that you didn't thought of doing. So let's start with the first one. You simply put on the stencil on the Gelli Plate. It sticks really nicely to it. It won't move. I'm still using the really cheap paint and regular copy paper to do this. So I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit of ink on the stencil right away. And I'm just rolling it out, and here you can see there's more paint there than on the other places, but that's what I wanted to do, like a sun that is shining. So you take the stencil off and you can print right away. That's the first real easy method. You can also put your paper directly on the stencil and you will obtain about the same result, but here nothing really special. So now I'm going to clean my Gelli Plate. This can be really fun to play with too. Maybe it's a good idea to let it dry and then to take it off with another layer. Well, why I can do that, and I will turn my stencil the other way so the sun is shining here towards there, and then I'm going to put some paint just here on my work surface, and I'm using two colors. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow too, and then I'm going to put this on with a little sponge, and then you can really choose what color you are putting on what spot. Now the only thing that you have to keep in mind is that this will dry pretty fast, and your way of working is not so fast as just rolling on the paint with your brayer. So I'm just going to do this, not going to put more paint. So this is the way where you can really decide for yourself where you are putting the paint. So I will put a little bit more here, but some parts might be already too dry to pull the print in at once. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to let this dry. This is dry, and now I'm just going to pull the print. So the red that you see there is because I didn't clean my Gelli Plate after pulling this print, and I don't mind that. So this is the paint we've put on with the sponge, and I'm just going to pull this print with white paint. As you know from the previous videos, you really don't need a lot of paint. There we go. Regular copy paper. A good rub. Now, as you know, 30 seconds might not be enough because there are 2 layers. So I'm going to leave this on for 5 minutes. Okay, I've waited 5 minutes. You can also use the hairdryer, but not too hot, and then it will need less time. So now I'm going to check. Okay, one corner. The Gelli Plate seems to be clean, so I can pull this print. Okay. As you can see, we have an almost clean Gelli Plate. There we go. This is the second way of using a stencil. Another way of working with stencils that can be fun is you put on a layer. Now I'm going to use black paint, so it will be more obvious what I'm going to do. Okay, a thin layer of black paint. Okay, I'm putting the stencil right down and the paper on top. As I want my layer to be really thin, you have to hurry a little bit. You cannot wait too long before doing putting the stencil on and putting the paper on. Now that the paper and the stencil are on the paint, you can take your time, because under the plastic stencil the paint will not dry really quickly, and here you just have to really rub well with your fingers into the holes of the stencil. And this is not the best stencil to do that. It's crispier when you take the stencil with bigger holes in it. But this is not what we are interested in. What is interesting with this way is this. Now this is the ghost print, and I think it's about dry. I assume, no, it's not completely dry, so I'm going to wait. Now this is dry, and for me this is the prettiest way of working with stencils. So a dark paint, paper on top to pull the first print, and then working with the ghost print. And now I'm going to use one of the methods that we have learned in the first or second lesson, blending colors. So I'm going to start with the lightest color. And then the darkest color and blending it in a little bit. There. And then right away put the paper on top. Give it a good rub, and since the first layer, the black layer with the ghost print, is pretty detailed and pretty interesting, I will not ruining it by pulling the print too quickly. If I'm too curious, I can turn the plate around to see what it will look like, but I will wait for 10 minutes. Okay, this is dry, and I can't repeat it enough. You can leave this for 10 minutes, but you can also leave it for 10 hours or 10 days. It doesn't matter, as long as you don't take it off too soon. So always look at a corner and see if it comes off nicely, and here it's not. So it doesn't, you cannot rub on and expect the paint to come off. But what I'm going to try, because In fact, I wanted this to happen a little bit, in fact. And you see, this can happen, and then you say, oh no, this print was so gorgeous and now I've ruined it by taking it off too soon and there is still paint on the Gelli plate. So you can do two things. You can accept this. You see that the paint didn't come off here and here, and why not? It's rather pretty, but what I'm going to try now is to put on some gel medium. Put on some gel medium on the parts of the print that did not come off. I'm going to clean my brayer real good before doing that, because I used black paint, and that's not good if the black paint comes off your brayer when you don't want it. And I'm going to put on a little bit of gel medium just on the spots where the paint did not come off. And you've noticed that I did not take the paper off completely, because I wanted to go exactly on the same spot to get that paint off. So I'm now going to put it on exactly the same spot. And now I'm going to let this dry, so at least 10 minutes, and we will see if we have saved this print. Now this is dry, and now I hope the gel medium took off the paint that was left on the Gelli plate. Of course, you remember that I've taken the paper off until here. So it might be that here on the other side is also a little bit of paint left on the plate. So let me first check this side, and if ever the plate is not clean, I can do the same thing, but here it's fine. But if there was paint left there, I would have done the same thing. So pull it off until the middle and then put gel medium on to get off the rest. So I remember we had 2 spots of paint that were not on my print, like here a little bit and at the end. And now you can see my Gelli plate is nice and clean, but you still can see a little bit of white from the paper. It's really the first time that I'm doing this. I was thinking about it while I was pulling this print. I said, oh, let me try with gel medium, and it does work. There's no more paint on the Gelli plate, but the print is not perfect. So it's always better to take the time to leave your print long enough on the Gelli plate so that that doesn't happen. So I really like this way of making prints with ghost prints of stencils. Now, the last thing that I was going to show you is, let me take a little bit of black and a little bit of red, and then I'm going to take a baby wipe. Here, going to prepare this already. I'm going to spread out my paint. Okay, let's do not the blending, but the random spreading of the paint. Putting my stencil on there. There we go. And then instead of pulling the print with my paper that I did in the beginning, and then you really have to go in every little hole of the stencil, I'm going to take off the paint with a baby wipe. And this gives you another kind of print. You can call it a ghost print, I suppose. That will be underneath this stencil, and it will look a little bit different than when you're doing it the other way. Okay, so instead of putting on the paint with the sponge, what we did, now we're taking off the paint through the stencil. I want this really clean, so I'm going over with a clean baby wipe. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so this is already too dry to pull the print at once. So now I'm going to let this dry. Okay, this is dry, and I'm going to pull the print with my yellow paint. So I will have a couple of prints made with the same stencil and with the same colors. So that's always nice to have a little match. Thin coat of yellow paint. Putting on the paper without waiting too long. And now you wait. Now you wait. We will leave this for 10 minutes, and I see you later to pull this print. There we go. Pulling off a corner. Okay. There we go. So we have this, we have this, we have this, and the first one. And of course the possibilities are endless with all the stencils that you might have. The difference between a plastic stencil is that it doesn't absorb the paint. In the previous videos, the stencils or the mask that we made absorbed the paint because they were in paper. But here, the paint stays underneath, which gives this really nice structure underneath your stencil. I hope that you've learned some things today and have a lot of fun. If you like this video, give me, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss out the next ones. Bye.